Hello and welcome to A Cup of Coffee with me, Sandy. Each week I have a guest who joins me for a cup of coffee and we discuss their lives, loves, and who knows what else. So let's see who we've got this week. Years ago, it was always a man's world. A woman to get to the top of the tree was very difficult. I know that from my own personal experience. And my guest today to have a cup of coffee with me is Marie. And she has been in the same situation, I would say early 90s. And today I would like Marie to join me for a cup of coffee. Morning, Marie, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
I can see you now. We've had a problem with our not seeing you, but you're there full face and that's absolutely fine. You and I have had very much of a similar experience, both work and both being butterflies. You had itchy feet, as I did. You were born in Liverpool.
Yes.
Started your life as a graphic designer. And where did that take you?
Well, it was because, I started doing graphic design because I love it, and I still do, and photography. They absolutely adore photography. But the point being that when I was in college, I was working at a small restaurant called Bands in Liverpool, and there was two very, very, very nice Jewish gentlemen who owned it. And they taught me how to make cocktails, and I was doing the kitchen and I was earning quite a lot of money, and it was really good fun. And again, I was the only girl that worked there, but that was just normal for me. Bartending has always been male dominated, which is kind of strange when you think about
it. Absolutely.
But always men, wherever you go. So I went from there, really.
So from there, you then decided, after being in a hotel,
Four Seasons,
got an offer to go to where?
To Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. Yeah. And what were you doing in Hong Kong?
Well, first of all, I had to go, even though I was a manager, and I was actually the youngest licensee in Britain at the time, because I held the license for the bar actually in the Four Seasons. I had to go and basically retrain and start from scratch with a view to becoming a manager, because they insisted that everybody that worked at the Jump knew every single job. So I had to do a month on the dishwasher, I had to do a month on
Start at the bottom and grow.
Yeah, I did. I had to do it all like that. And also to find my feet in an extremely foreign country, which was good, because you're finding your feet when you first, you fly halfway across the world. Yeah, it was different.
And then you did something. I've met many people in my life. I've traveled a lot, the same as you have. I have never, ever met a female barman, bar person, bar lady who's been training men how to make cocktails. And you did that for many years in Hong Kong.
Yeah, it was just a question of, I was always one of the boys anyway. I was never particularly a girly girl.
Me too.
Never. And, and I'm still not. And I've always not, I wouldn't say prefer men or women company, but my best friends are generally they're men.
Yeah.
Not because I'm girly, or I'm just not, I just like the company. They're in a lot of ways, very, very practical and not so gossipy, and they just get on with things.
They're a lot more fun anyway. And they're not jealous, which makes a very big difference. So let's get back to your time in Hong Kong. You were making cocktails, you were teaching the men how to make cocktails. Give me an idea of the kind of cocktails in those years you were making.
I think the one amusing thing is that the Hong Kong Chinese, they don't have a very high capacity for alcohol.
Right.
So, that sounds daft now, but even the bottles like regular beer that you'd have here in Spain or even in Britain, they were tiny. They were much smaller. So, and the cocktails, normally it was the girls drinking the cocktails, and it was all for show. It was a very show-off place. And half the time, I think some of them didn't even drink cocktails like, you know, the iced tea. It's incredibly strong, you know. That's 4 white spirits in one glass.
Sure.
Yeah, that was quite a hefty cocktail. And most of them are, so.
What was the first cocktail you made?
Sorry?
What was the first cocktail that you made?
What, the very first one?
Yeah.
I was taught to make. It was a Long Island iced tea. Okay. Because you had to know how to make the sweet and sour. You have to know how to make, you had to be able to do the job of a barback as well. Because a barback is somebody who's there, you know, to supply you with your drinks that you're serving, so you don't leave your station. Because all flair bars, they used to be, I don't know what they are now, square, so you have your own corner, and the barbacks were then required to sort of bring you your ingredients. It was almost like cooking. I mean, it is, you know, you had to start your shift, you had to do pour tests.
Where did you find the recipes? Where did you come up with recipes for teaching the men how to make cocktails?
Well, everybody there already knew what they were doing. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been shipped out there in the first place. I mean, they were all good bartenders that I was working with, and they taught me a lot as well. But there was basically a Bible, and the simple fact was you had to learn it. And I think it was something like 3,000 cocktails, and you had to know that off by heart, and you were tested on it.
No way.
And you were also tested on your pouring skills. So you had test tubes in front of you at the beginning of a shift, and you had 2 bottles of water, normally with vodka bottles, but full of water, both hands. And then you basically had to do, the guy who's testing you would shout out 1/2 ounce, 1 ounce, 2 ounces, and you would have to go through and pour exactly that amount, not over, not under. If you didn't do your test before your shift, you didn't pass, you didn't work.
That's unbelievable. Exactly. I mean, does that happen today as well? Because we have got so many bars now that say they make cocktails. Do you think they have that kind of training as well today? Or it's just willy-nilly and they're pouring in?
I think, I mean, I've been to bars and I've watched them, and no, they don't. Some of them, no, they don't. I mean, there's so many different ways of doing different pours. I mean, it's an art in itself, doing a good pour.
It's actually an art, and it's an art that a woman was teaching men way back there. Did you have, I know that you worked in a very shishi bar. Did you have many celebrities coming into Hong Kong?
Yes, yeah, absolutely, all the time. It was that sort of place.
No idea of whom, because you work with celeb, I work with celebs. Who came into your bar?
Well, the Hollywood lot were there a lot, because when they first set Planet Hollywood, they're using it as a template. I mean, they had their own template, but they had, because they had Planet Hollywood in Hong Kong as well. So I met, I think my favourite must be Sylvester Stallone and his brother. Oh, they're such nice people.
Did the mother ever come?
Sorry?
Did his mother ever come with?
No, she didn't.
No.
I think they thought it was a bit too far. I would like to have met her though, because they talked about her a lot.
Yeah, I would like to have met her. Besides him, I've never met him, but I would like to have met her, because she, I think, was the matriarch of the boys.
Oh yeah, definitely. They talked about them a lot. And I met Robert De Niro, who's an absolute charming gentleman. Didn't like to talk about himself, ever. You know, people asked him questions all the time about films and this, that. Yeah. Not interested. Always focused on the person he was talking to, and always focused on you. If you were talking to him, he wanted to know about you, how you got there, what you were doing, and this and this. Very, very self-effacing, nice man. I mean, really nice.
And then, interesting for a star, because usually they talk about themselves and they don't do eyeball to eyeball. Very few do.
Different. Yeah. And I'll tell you what stuck in my mind, Robbie Coltrane. Oh, he was such a nice man.
Is he as funny as he seems to be on television?
Absolutely hysterical, really dry sense of humour, and an absolute gentleman. He was really, really nice. And of course, you've got the other end of the scale where they're not so nice, like the people we've just been talking about. Faye Dunaway, not my favourite. She was hard work. Faye Dunaway.
Okay.
Very, 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 all about her.
Did De Niro have a special cocktail that he always had?
Whiskey sour.
And that is what?
It's just whiskey and sweet and sour, basically.
Always?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I had.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
not a big drink, not at all. No, not like some of them that come in, and especially the Stallone brothers and Bruce Willis. Bit proud. They like to drink. They like to party.
Okay. What did they drink? What did you make for them?
Beer, well, no, beer mainly. The Americans seem to really like beer. They're very into, you can't get it in this country, a beer called Rolling Rock, which is made in Canada, in Latrobe, which they use a difference, the water's very pure. And they seem to just stick to the light beers, the clear beers, like Miller Lite and Bud Light and Rolling Rock. Yeah. They're all in that genre. Yeah.
So you spent about 13 years there.
Yeah.
Did when you got there, was there any sort of language or culture problem, not problem, but that you had to fit into?
Yeah, very much so. When they called us guaylos, white faces and big noses, that's what it means basically, which is fine by me because Chinese, they don't, the Cantonese, I think that somebody told me, my friend, Paul Tai, he was a Hong Kong police force, and he said that actual language, they only had about 3,000 words. So if you did a direct translation from Cantonese to English, it's quite rude. So you have to kind of shake off that, oh my God, I don't believe they just said that, you know, and you get people here in Spain do the same, you know. You've just got to adapt.
Yeah.
You've just got to take it with a pinch of salt because that's their language.
Sure, sure. And you lived there, you loved it, and what made you leave?
The changeover. Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be a pleasant changeover. And I don't think, and it was, you know, and look at what's happening now. I mean, it always was, Hong Kong was an SAR, it was a special admin region.
Yes.
And the border stayed closed because I had one boyfriend who was working up at RAF Setcom, which was on the border between China and Hong Kong, because it was a different, you know, it's completely different. There was a border there.
Sure.
And it was not going to be the same, not at all, because they're not really, I mean, Hong Kong Chinese was so westernized.
Yes.
They had British rule for 97 years. So,
absolutely. Yes.
So it was, I knew it wasn't going to be pleasant.
So your gut told you it's now time to move on to, and then you went where?
I went back to England for a while.
Okay.
When I was a manager of a Café Rouge.
Okay.
I must admit, I found it quite staid, you know, quite boring.
Very different from what you were used to.
Yeah. And the technology in Hong Kong was way, way ahead of what they had in Britain. I mean, it was just astonishing, the difference. I felt like I was going back 20 years. And then I was there and I didn't particularly like it. It was all pre-processed food. It wasn't the kind of quality that I was looking for in my life. I didn't want to work with that sort of in that kind of environment. And then I thought I was a bit tired, to be honest with you. So I got a job working in Amphi Del Mar in Gran Canaria. So then I went to Gran Canaria, to Amphi, owned by a Norwegian gentleman, Bjorn Lee.
And what job did you do there?
I was working in the graphic design department, and I was also working in some as well, doing a bit of everything. But it was a much more relaxed atmosphere, and it was just a nice change, you know. But you had the heat as well, which I love. You know, I like being warm in a hot environment, and I stayed there for quite some time. Yeah, but then got again bored.
No, I think butterfly is a far better way. A Mariposa is far better than being bored, because you've been there, you've done that, and now what? So where did you go from there?
Well, it's sort of like I came home. You know, I came home to Spain, really. And it's quite a distance. I mean, people don't realise that Gran Canaria is 2.5 hours away, flying time.
Yeah.
It's just it's not like Spain at all, really. And it was just nice to be back on the Costa del Sol, where things are slightly more civilized.
Sure.
And then I was down in Torreblanca, because I had a Norwegian boyfriend at the time, and his family owned Muriel Gold.
Man.
Not all, but
not always that thing. They can either take you there or drop you. Yes.
So he came with me, but his family are sadly he's passed away now. He was only 40. But anyway, yeah, I came with Gaia back to the coast and worked in graphics again and website development in Puerto Banús. I was there for a little bit, working with my then boyfriend's company down on the seafront. And then we split up, and I decided it was time for a change. And I didn't really like Banús. Not for me, not at all.
No.
And then I got a bus to Estepona one day to visit a friend. And I thought, wow, I really like this place. Such a nice atmosphere, so much calmer. And it was, the sea is just, the beaches were bigger, there was less people, wasn't quite as busy as Banús. Yeah. And then I met Capinto, so there we are.
And how did you meet him?
I was working again with graphics, and I was tired of catering. I just wanted a break from catering. And I used to go into his restaurant every day where he's working, Halleman's, in Estepona Port, next door to Ronaldo's. And I used to meet my clients in there with my laptop, because I was doing graphics and websites still, for the companies out here that were doing off-plan. So I'd do the off-plan catalogues for the organisations. And I had a lot of my meetings there at the time. He used to bring me coffee every morning. Still does, but it's tea now.
And he now has been the love of your life for how many years?
18 years.
Ah, my goodness.
We lived together.
And it just shows you, you never know what or who is around the corner.
Oh gosh, no. That's what's so great about life, isn't it?
With your laptop, doing your work, and then this man is bringing you coffee each day. How did you start going out?
Well, the owner of the bar, Halleman, Claudio, who we're still very much in touch with, he was pushing him to ask me out. And Quinto was extremely shy, actually. And he'd never been out with anyone before. He still lived at home with his mum. And eventually he did. And we met up in the jazz pub, which was just opposite. Yeah. And I was tatty as ever and cut-off shorts and a silly T-shirt. You know me. And he actually had a suit on and a huge big bunch of flowers.
No way! Spanish man having it stayed that way. Oh, that shows you everything.
And 2 days later, we were living together. And we've been together ever since.
And now you've also got somebody else living with you. A wonderful, wonderful lady.
Yeah, I've got my mummy living here. Yeah, she couldn't manage in the UK.
Right.
So we thought it was best to sell the fact we were living in. Mum used to visit us for at least 3-4 months every year for 10 years. But her medical condition made it so that it was getting more and more difficult to get on the airplane.
Yes.
So me, Quinto, and Mum decided she'd come and live with us. So she's got her own suite inside the flat. So I take care of her.
And she's not 22 years old. I mean, she's a slightly older lady who I haven't met her yet, but I've seen pictures of her. She's got beautiful blue nails, depending on which week it is. It can be red, it can be blue. Her hair is done every week. She is one elegant lady, but there is no Spanish conversation.
No.
No.
But they've known Kasintu for years, and they've got their own little language,
That's
and
right.
they get on really well.
It's
So
hands, eyes, mouth, it's just
yeah,
showing and they know each other.
yeah. So there's no problem.
No, absolutely not. And it's just lovely to spend these quality years together as a
Yes.
family.
Yeah.
Now you've moved on, and I'm only going to mention this, I'm not going to go into it, but the way that I've met you is through what you do and what you've done and what you're going to be doing for this wonderful group organization called Age Concern, which you now have become the president. And that's going to be a totally different program, because I want you to tell everybody what you've done, what you've been doing during the COVID time, and what you're going to be doing in the future, and how Age Concern is growing.
Oh gosh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We are
And
growing. Yeah.
you're growing fast. And if it's anything like the way that you have grown in the other businesses that you've had and the other positions, with Marie, it is quick, quick, it's done, it's over, and there we go. It's happiness.
I'm a bit like that. I'm sorry. Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I like to get things done and like to get things moving. Keeps everyone entertained.
Yeah, because we live for today. Tomorrow is still going to come. It's never going to be tomorrow. So make the most of today. So what I'm going to say to you now is, why don't we finish our cup of coffee? And I want to say, Marie, thank you so much for sharing. But one last thing, give me one recipe of a cocktail that I can make at my next dinner party.
What spirits do you like?
I'm a vodka girl in the summer.
Tequila Sunrise. It's a no-brainer. Because you've got a tequila sunrise is the easiest one you can make without buying a lot of bizarre ingredients.
Okay.
And then basically you just need grenadine, vodka, fresh orange juice. That's it.
Okay.
So crushed ice, I'd recommend crushed ice.
Yes.
Glass of crushed ice first, vodka, orange juice, and then the grenadine. Drop it in so it sinks straight to the bottom.
Okay.
Tequila sun.
Let me tell you what I have just discovered.
Yeah.
I think, well, I call it the Moscow Mule. I don't know if that's the right name. And that is the vodka and lots of lemon, crushed ice, and ginger beer.
Nice.
And it is the most wonderful drink. So that has become my 2020 summer vodka drink.
Oh, is that what you're saying? That's nice.
Yeah.
It's different.
It's different. It's cooling. It's got a little bite to it. And yeah, it's tasty. And on that, note, I'm not going to be drinking vodka now. I'm going to finish my cup of coffee. Thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to seeing you again when we will continue. But this time it will really only be about the organization, how it is going and what you're doing.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you. Take care. God bless. And have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.
Well, that's the end of today's program, and I hope that you enjoyed my guest. Also, a cup of coffee. Have a lovely week, and I look forward to seeing you and sharing another guest and another cup of coffee with you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.